So we're going to talk about inversions of 5/7 because we're gearing up to write these Roman numerals in a whole progression. Actually, you'll be given those as a progression, and then we write the chords to realize the Roman numerals and figures. We're going to continue our emphasis on the outer parts, and that means the bass and the chord start to become one thing, the bass being the support for that chord. So when we see this, we should automatically know what our bass line needs to be. And when we're writing, we're thinking in terms of scale degrees primarily, so I want to make a connection between three things. Between this Roman numeral and figure, this symbol for the chord, 5/7, and then the chord member that's in the bass, but also the scale degree. Now, see, when you listen, you hear a bass line. You hear that note that's in the bass, and you're going to hear it not as a chord member primarily, but as a scale degree. And then that scale degree should be associated with, okay, a scale degree 5, it'll turn out in the bass there. You want to associate that scale degree with a particular Roman numeral and figure. So when I hear a dominant 7th sound, I want to take this category right here and combine it with the thing that I hear in the bass. So if I hear a certain scale degree, and I know that it's a dominant 7th, I will be able, if I know this column, if I know all the scale degrees here for the bass notes, I'll be able to quickly make a connection between the sound and the symbol that I need. I'll show you how that works. So let's start with chord members. If the root is the bass note, I'm dealing with a 5/7 chord. Okay, well, if you've got a 5/7 and you've got the root in the bass, the root, of course, is scale degree 5. So I'll write that here. That one's pretty easy. We're used to that. 5/7, okay, the root's got to be scale degree 5. All that makes sense. Okay, now if you're dealing with 5/6/5, we're used to thinking of that in terms of what chord member ends up in the bass. Okay, so the chordal third is in the bass in first inversion. But now I want to also make sure that we know what scale degree that is. If this is our 5/7 chord's content in terms of scale degrees, then we've just moved from the root up to the third. We need scale degree 7 in the bass. Let's move on to 5/4/3. Tend to think of that as having the chordal 5th in the bass, but let's also now think of that as scale degree 2, a bass note of scale degree 2. 5/4/2, okay, so here's our content. Third inversion, we're dealing with the chordal 7th in the bass, and the chordal 7th in a 5/7 chord is scale degree 4. Okay, so really we have to take all that information and make it through study our own. Then what we'll do is we'll say, okay, I hear a 5/7 chord and I've got scale degree 4 in the bass, therefore I need a 5/4/2 as my chord symbol. Now this isn't just important for ear training, for our listening and understanding what we hear, but it's also important when we're writing, because we're going to say, okay, I've got this symbol, now I can work the other way. If I've got this symbol, I need scale degree 4 in the bass. And that's much faster. That's a direct connection rather than doing it like so. 5/4/2, I need the chordal 7th in the bass. Okay, let me spell up. If I'm in a certain key, I'll have to work through. You see how you have to work through that? It's much quicker to say, I'm in this key. I don't need to know what all the chord members are, but I can go directly from the chord symbol to the scale degree that's in the bass and write that scale degree. That will help us in writing the outer parts more directly. It's a cleaner route to the answer. Okay, so the main thing I want you to be able to do is take the Roman numeral and figure, and from that, know what scale degree is in the bass. Here, if we're in C, I'm just going to work this out in the key of C so you can see a little more practical use. If I know I've got a 5, if it's a 5/7 dominant 7th chord, then that means I'm going to put this G in the bass. Here's the whole chord in one hand, And I like to spread it out and make it like keyboard style, where you got one note in the bass clef and 3 up top. Okay, so 5/7, here's our root. Let's move that into the bass. And we've got our 5/7 that we'd like. And we're going to do that with each of these. So let's try 5/6/5, here, 5/4/3 over here, and a 5/4/2 last. All right, 5/6/5. I'm going to have the chordal third in the bass, and we want to know when we see 5/6/5, automatically we're going to think of B, scale degree 7 and C, as the bass note. 5/4/3 has, if you've memorized it, what scale degree in the bass? 2. Okay, so I'll put 2 up here. Get rid of that chordal fifth up top. 5/4/2. If I've studied that and I know it, I've got 5/4/2 linked up in my mind with scale degree 4 as the bass note. So I can go, all right, I'm in C. There's scale degree 4. You get rid of it up here, and you've got the chord. So in each case, we're putting here the root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th in the bass. And now I'd like you to be able to learn to skip that step of thinking what chord member it is and go right from the symbol to putting the appropriate note in the bass based on its scale degree, the bass note's scale degree.